Good evening. Our top story tonight, the Minnesota Vikings are moving up in the draft, trading with the Houston Texans to add a second first-round pick. And we all know that this signifies the Minnesota Vikings trading up into that top five. They're going to shoot for 3 with the New England Patriots, try to get Drake Maye. They're going to settle for 4 if they can't and draft JJ McCarthy, or if the Cardinals stay pat at 4, they're desperate for Marvin Harrison Jr., then maybe they trade up to 5 and take Jim Harbaugh's former quarterback at the pick the Chargers would have had. But the Minnesota Vikings are trading up. We've got moves at quarterback. The entire 2021 draft class is on the move. Kenny Pickett out of there. Desmond Ridder out of there. Sam Howell out of there. Oh, what a class and what a show we've got for you here on Player Profiler today. And so we are back, and the Minnesota Vikings look like they're going to be trading up in the draft. They've already done it once, trading from the 42nd overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft to the 23rd pick. So they go from early second round to late first round. In order to do so, they give up that 42nd overall pick. That's a second round pick this year. They give up a second round pick next year as well, and give up the 118th pick in the draft this year. Move back to 232 and move up to 23rd. So the Minnesota Vikings move up, and we all know that they're trading for a quarterback, right? I mean, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is a brilliant football mind. He is a business guy. He's an Ivy League guy. There is no way that he trades up in the first round for a non-premium position. And quarterback is the most premium of the premium positions. And you also have to think, okay, Kirk Cousins is gone. Sam Darnold is not the answer. And so are they really trading up to that 23rd overall pick for an edge rusher, another premium position, a wide receiver? Well, maybe, but not the Vikings, because they already have 2 stars in the making. 1 star in the making, 1 already star in Jefferson and Addison. But either way, we've got the Minnesota Vikings moving up in the draft with the Texans. They're looking for a premium position. And what's more premium than getting a real quarterback? Sam Darnold can be a mentor to whoever they end up drafting, but 1 year, $10 million, that's bridge quarterback money. That's high-end backup money, very low-end starter money. Baker Mayfield was the lowest paid non-rookie contract quarterback last year with just over $6 million, ended up making closer to 8. But that's where we're at with the cap increase. We've got inflation going on. Sam Darnold is maybe Baker Mayfield, but he's not going to be given that long of a leash either. The Minnesota Vikings are going to be looking to trade up. And I sincerely hope that it's to that 3rd overall pick, because look at the New England Patriots. They're a team in rebuild. They're a team that needs to blow it up, gut the roster, start fresh with a bunch of money, a bunch of draft picks, and build something long-term. Because if you're Gerard Mayo, there's not a lot of pressure this year, right? I mean, it's pretty clear after trading Mac Jones that you're blowing it up. There's a lot of pressure to follow Bill Belichick. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Boston media is going to crucify him if he loses this year. But for my money, the New England Patriots, no one's expecting anything from them this year. And so why not trade back, build up this roster, because it is a roster bereft of talent, and allow the Minnesota Vikings that 3rd overall pick. That way, Josh McCown, the new quarterback coach of the Minnesota Vikings, he can work with Sam Darnold, the guy that he basically coached with the New York Jets. And then he can also work with Drake Maye, the guy that he literally coached when he was in high school. Josh McCown, Minnesota Vikings quarterback coach, worked with Drake Maye in high school. And at this point, we all kind of feel as though it's Caleb 1, Jaden Daniels 2, Drake Maye going to be there at 3. Do the Patriots take him? I hope not, because it would be so much more fun seeing a big, strong, cannon-armed Drake Maye in the Minnesota Vikings offense than the Patriots offense. We've also heard that the Patriots are looking to the draft at wide receiver after missing out on Calvin Ridley. So that just leads more credence to the idea that the Minnesota Vikings could be trading up to 3. But at worst, they'll trade up to 4 or 5 because the Cardinals are not taking a quarterback. And if the Cardinals decide, nah, we're going to stand pat, we've already got an extra first round, we don't need a second extra first round, which would be wrong, but we're taking Marvin Harrison Jr., then the Vikings can trade up to 5. And we've heard all along that the Chargers want to trade back in the draft, that they're looking at an offensive tackle even after trading Keenan Allen, cutting Mike Williams. We'll get to that in a little bit. But for now, we'll wait and see who the next quarterback in the Minnesota Vikings is. I hope that it's Drake Maye. There's a chance it's JJ McCarthy, probably more likely that it's JJ McCarthy, but either way, we are building to something special this off season. The draft is going to be absolutely electric, and I cannot wait. But before we get to more news, especially at the quarterback position, we're talking Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Drew Lock, who are all starters or not starters, depending on who you ask. Kenny Pickett definitely not a starter. But before we get to that, we've got a word from the Podfather.
This episode is brought to you by PlayerProfiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help to strategize where you should take players because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the market for player X versus player Y, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty Guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our Rookie Guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. I mean, it's a great deal. Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free, and one of our key missions is to make as much statistics and information and deep analysis available on playerprofiler.com for free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all this possible. If you can't do All In, that's okay. We have a draft kit. Or you can just subscribe to the player rankings. Those now include tight end premium FFPC ranks. Our brand new data analysis package will blow your hair back. And of course, there's our Dynasty Deluxe and our DFS Dominator. Take a moment, check out our premium services to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.
We are back and we're talking Kenny Pickett. Steelers should go and get Chad Kelly. Is he under contract up here in Canada? Yes, he is, but there's nothing in a CFL contract, I think, that precludes you from going to the NFL. As far as I know, there's nothing that stops you from doing that, so I wouldn't hate it at all. But moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they move off of Kenny Pickett, trade him to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a 22 spot move up from the 4th round. The Steelers move up 22 spots from the 4th round to the 3rd round with the Philadelphia Eagles and also get an extra 2 7th round picks in 2025. The Eagles get their new backup behind Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett becomes the backup he was always destined to be. And the Steelers just had enough. They were done with Kenny Pickett, but this wasn't supposed to happen this way. Kenny Pickett was supposed to compete to be QB1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, but it doesn't happen because of how Kenny Pickett reacted to the news. By all accounts, at first, Kenny Pickett was all about competing. He was happy to compete. Whoever they brought in, it was going to be a competition, and he was excited for it. Then the Steelers actually sign a quarterback, and it's Russell Wilson for the veteran minimum. And he's told, hey, you are going to compete, but just so you know, the veterans in training camp, in OTAs, they always get the first crack. So Russell Wilson is going to get the first crack when we get to OTAs, when we get to mini camp. That's what's going to happen, but it's still a competition. And Kenny Pickett, by all accounts, and this could just be a smear job coming from the Pittsburgh Steelers, but by all accounts, Kenny Pickett had a little bit of a temper tantrum, wasn't happy about it. And then we hear the repetition of the rumor that Kenny Pickett didn't dress last year after being demoted to quarterback 3 following his injury. The Steelers denied it at the time, but now it's being re-reported almost as if the Steelers are saying, yeah, he did do that. We were covering it up because he was our guy. Now he's not our guy at all. So Kenny Pickett is on the move. He's out of there. The Philadelphia Eagles love to prioritize the backup quarterback position. They go from Marcus Mariota, who is not the best backup quarterback, now the backup quarterback to the Commanders quarterback, who's going to be Jaden Daniels. But before that, it was Gardner Minshew. Before that, it was Jalen Hurts, I believe. Before that, Nick Foles was in there. Josh McCown was in there. The Eagles love their backup quarterback. And so there's a lot of teams trading for backup quarterbacks, especially from that 2021 NFL draft. We see Kenny Pickett. He's traded. Yesterday, Desmond Ridder got traded to not the Carolina Panthers, the Arizona Cardinals. And Sam Howell got traded yesterday as well to the Seattle Seahawks. So that leaves Malik Willis, currently the backup quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, because Ryan Tannehill's a free agent, but he ended the year as QB3. So he's still with the Titans. Matt Corral is long gone from the Carolina Panthers. He's in the UFL now with the Birmingham Stallions. Bailey Zappi is one of the more successful stories from that 2022 NFL draft. I think I've been saying 2021. It was 2022. My mistake, friends out there. But Bailey Zappi, one of the more successful stories, because he's the backup for the Patriots, even though he's going to be demoted to QB3 if the Patriots draft a QB because Jacoby Brissett's there now. But really, the only quarterback from that class that's worked out is Brock Purdy, the last pick of the draft. It is nuts. It is absolutely insane. So like we mentioned, lots of moving parts at quarterback. The Eagles are loading up. We see Kenny Pickett join Saquon Barkley, Devontae Parker, and Matt Hennessy on the offense. Matt Hennessy, borderline starting offensive line, kind of a starter / quality backup. Could fill in at right guard with Cam Jurgens moving to center. Eagles also loading up on defense. Bryce Huff from the Jets. CJ Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the safety, is back. Devin White, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebacker, signs with the Eagles as well. And they've got new coordinators, Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. They also bring Josh Sweat back as well, their edge rusher. He's going to pair with Bryce Huff. They do have Hassan Reddick right now. Kind of makes it seem they've signed an edge, and they're bringing one back for sure. Kind of seems like Hassan Reddick may be on the move, but we will keep our eyes on that. As for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they now need a backup quarterback. Maybe it is Chad Kelly, but they also signed Van Jefferson to replace Deontay Johnson. So, hey, at least they've got 2 wide receivers now. They don't have 3, but at least they have 2. I'm like, maybe Calvin Austin finally breaks out. My heart would be happy. My head says there's no chance that happens. Van Jefferson going to be running wind sprints in the Arthur Smith offense once again, following him from Atlanta after being traded by the Rams. But what about Justin Fields? What does Justin Fields do now? He's kind of doomed, right? Because there's a bunch of other teams that have made moves at backup quarterback. Only the Patriots really looking for a starter. That's the best case scenario for Justin Fields. Because the Vikings, we all expect to trade up for a QB. Patriots trading back and trading for Justin Fields is the best case scenario at this point. The Eagles tried to get Justin Fields, but the Bears said, no, you've got to give us more picks. You got to pay up for Justin Fields. And so the Eagles move on and say, nah, we're good. We're not going to give that for a backup. And now they get Kenny Pickett. The Seahawks get Sam Howell. And when the report came out from the Adam Schefters of the world, it was heavily implied that this was going to be a quarterback competition, that a new regime is not loyal to Geno Smith. Mike McDonald, new head coach, that this could be a competition. John Schneider, the general manager, comes out and says, no, not a competition. We brought him in to be the backup. Geno is the guy. But remember, John Schneider also said that Geno Smith is a starter until he's not. So could be a short leash for the Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith. Also, some rumors that the Seahawks are looking at taking Michael Penix in the second round. But that's not all we've got at quarterback. The Cardinals trade for Desmond Ridder to be their backup to Kyler Murray. He's going to be the new Josh Dobbs, except Josh Dobbs didn't actually back up Kyler Murray. He was traded before that could happen. But the trade is for Rondale Moore. So now the Falcons have their 3 wide receivers to start this season. Could also still draft one and send Rondale Moore potentially to the bench. But now we've got Drake London as the big outside X receiver. We've got Darnell Mooney on the other outside wide receiver position. He's stretching the field deep. He can do it all. Run short, intermediate, deep. Darnell Mooney's going to be clearing things out. Rondale Moore in the slot as well. Excited to see this Kirk Cousins offense. And then we've got Ray McCloud too as the punt returner / backup wide receiver. Could compete with Rondale Moore in the slot. It's not really for fantasy football, but it is still very exciting. We've also got Drew Lock with the New York Giants. And so when Sam Howell was brought in and it was talked about competition, and John Schneider said, no, it's not a competition. Sam Howell's our backup. But the reason we don't have Drew Lock anymore is because Drew Lock was told that he could be this year's Baker Mayfield and that he was competing for the starting job in the New York Giants. And then the Giants come out and say, no, that's not what's going on. Daniel Jones is our starter. Drew Lock, we're going to make you go out there in your press conference and say, you're not the starter. It's Daniel Jones. But we all know Daniel Jones coming off the ACL tear. We'll see how healthy he is. He's probably not going to be practicing for OTAs and mini camp. And so then at that point, okay, well, Drew Lock is forced to take the first team reps. And by the time we get to training camp, well, Daniel Jones is just working his way back. He's just working his way back. And before you know it, would you look at that? Drew Lock won the starting job. He's just been so good throughout training camp. We can't deny it anymore. It wasn't a competition, though. But we all know it was a competition. Final piece of information at the quarterback position is Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G, now the backup quarterback for Matthew Stafford with the Los Angeles Rams. I think I'd rather take Carson Wentz as the backup for Matthew Stafford as we saw last year. But hey, Jimmy G, quality backup as well. He's going to serve a 2-game suspension, though, for PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs. And a lot of people are like, well, Jimmy G lost $11 million in guarantees this year from the Raiders because he took PEDs. But if he doesn't, Jimmy G's probably not healthy for week 1. He probably doesn't pass his physical, and he probably loses that entire contract. And then the Raiders are forced to start Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell all year long. So the risk reward there for Jimmy G, he still gets paid the 1 year with the Raiders, and then they move on. Rams also saw Aaron Donald retire today. Aaron Donald, arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. I mean, we're talking Aaron Donald, Lawrence Taylor, and Reggie White. Maybe you throw Deion Sanders in there as well, but for me, I think it's Aaron Donald and LT. I'd put Reggie White in that third chair. And it's Lawrence Taylor, LT versus Aaron Donald. That's just how special Aaron Donald has been in the NFL. Wish him all the best in retirement. I'm excited to see what is next. The NFL sure as hell going to be missing Aaron Donald, though. What a player. What a star. But it's not just the quarterbacks that are moving around either. Keenan Allen, new wide receiver for the Chicago Bears for just a 4th-round pick. And this is what happens when you ignore the salary cap. People like to say the cap is a myth, and a lot of the time it is. The salary cap isn't going to prevent you in the short term from making moves, but at some point, you always have to write that check. You always got to pay the piper, and the Chargers are paying the piper now. They cut Mike Williams. They saved $20 million. They trade Keenan Allen. That's another 20 plus million off the books. And then they get Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack to take pay cuts in order to stay. This is the reality of the salary cap. This is what's happening with the New Orleans Saints. They kicked that salary cap can down the road so many times that now they could literally cut every player on their team that would save them money and they still wouldn't have enough money to field a roster. That's how down bad the Saints are. That's why they have to restructure Derek Carr. The Saints, it's going to get worse before it gets better for the Chargers. At least they've got this year to reset. Next year, going to be a little bit better. And then after that, it'll be smooth sailing with the Jim Harbaugh era. But this was not the beautiful scenario as a head coach that it was billed to be. Justin Herbert, who's he going to be throwing to at this point? Not Keenan Allen, not Mike Williams. It's going to be Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston. If he can earn a starting job this year, Malik Neighbors with that 5th overall pick going to be in the running as well. Roma Duns as well. Could the Chargers draft a receiver, or are they going to take another offensive tackle like we've heard they kind of want to do? So we'll see what happens. But as for the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams gets another weapon. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. That is one of the better 1-2 punches at wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, who else would you rather have? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are up there. I'd probably rather have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I think I go there. Let me know if I'm missing anyone. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I think I'd rather have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, but this is the conversation that we are at. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore is going to be dangerous with DeAndre Swift coming out of the backfield. Cole Kmet. Now they've got tight end number 2, Gerald Everett as well. So the Bears just keep getting better. The Chargers going to get worse before it gets better. But hey, they added another tight end. Now they've got Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst. So it's going to be a 2 tight end offense. As we knew, Hayden Hurst reunites with Greg Roman, former Baltimore Raven, just like Gus Edwards reunites with Greg Roman. Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman are going to run their offense. They are going to run the football. And that's just where we are. But it's not all about running the football in the NFL, and the Kansas City Chiefs know that. That's why they go out and add Hollywood Brown to a 1-year deal worth up to $11 million. And this is fabulous. Marquise Hollywood Brown, former 1,000-yard receiver with the Baltimore Ravens, just has struggled with the Arizona Cardinals. Keep on calling the Cardinals the Carolina Panthers, but Hollywood Brown has success when he's healthy, misses some time with injuries. Then he has a rotating door at quarterback this past year. Hollywood Brown gets a fresh start, wasn't getting the offers he was looking for, wasn't getting the long-term contracts, and so he takes a 1-year prove-it deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. And where better to prove it than with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback? Marquise Hollywood Brown going to be playing the Marquez Valdes-Scantling role, running deep, clearing things out, but he's a lot better than MVS. So there's going to be some deep balls finally again in Kansas City. And this just makes life even better for Rashee Rice running underneath the short intermediate. That is going to be wide open for Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice dynasty stock going to keep going up and up. Should have been the Buffalo Bills, or at least the Bills should have been making an offer on Hollywood Brown. Instead, they signed Curtis Samuel to a 3-year, $24 million contract worth up to $30 million with 15. So basically 2 years of the contract fully guaranteed for Curtis Samuel. He reunites with Brandon Beane, who was with the Carolina Panthers, who drafted Curtis Samuel all those years ago. And he reunites with Joe Brady, his former offensive coordinator with the Carolina Panthers as well under Matt Rule. But it's going to be interesting because Curtis Samuel, is he the wide receiver 2 now? Is it Khalil Shakur now? Because between the two of them, in 2 wide receiver sets, we saw 8 snaps combined from Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakur. These were wide receiver 3 slot guys, both of them last year. So someone's got to take the leap. Or do the Buffalo Bills draft a Brian Thomas, draft a different wide receiver, an Adonai Mitchell? That could be a lot of fun. To be that outside guy opposite Stephon Diggs, and then Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakur compete in the slot. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know the Dallas Cowboys are also going to be looking for a new wide receiver because Michael Gallup has been cut as well. The Cowboys will save $9.5 million by moving on from Michael Gallup. But who are they going to add at wide receiver? And doesn't matter, because the internal reports are that Jalen Tolbert, favorite from Player Profiler back at the Senior Bowl out of South Alabama, Jalen Tolbert is the favorite to step into that role vacated by Michael Gallup. It's going to be Jalen Tolbert versus Brandon Cooks as that wide receiver too. If Brandon Cooks remains on the team for the season, we will see about that. Brandon Cooks was a rumored cap cut as well. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But Jalen Tolbert sees his stock boost in the short term. Cowboys also move on from Leighton Vander Esch as well. The Bengals move on from Joe Mixon, but they bring back Tanner Hudson, who's going to compete with Mike Gesicki to be their starting tight end. As crazy as it sounds, Mike Gesicki could be this year's Irv Smith, or really could be this year's Mike Gesicki as well. They also bring back Trenton Irwin, but Joe Mixon on his way out. We all knew that, traded for a 7th-round pick to the Houston Texans, but he then gets a 3-year, $27 million contract extension with $10 million paid this year, when he was set to make about $6 million for the Bengals this year. So Joe Mixon gets a pay increase. He gets an extension. He gets $13 million guaranteed. Life is good for Joe Mixon after getting traded by the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals have Zach Moss and Chase Brown to be their thunder in terms of Zach Moss and the lightning in terms of Chase Brown. Joe Mixon going to be their new bell cow, it looks like, unless they add someone in the draft. But he's going to take that Devin Singletary role. Damian Pierce, not a fit for the Bobby Slowick, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay offense. But Joe Mixon, going to be looking good, going to be a bell cow once again. Also at the running back position, the Packers bringing back A.J. Dillon, which was a shock to me. I figured once they signed Josh Jacobs, he's clearly the bell cow. A.J. Dillon going to look for a place he can at least compete. I thought that would be the Dallas Cowboys, but nope. A.J. Dillon is back. Now the Cowboys left with Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn. Is that where we're at for the Dallas Cowboys? Malik Davis still on the roster, maybe? Dallas Cowboys, though, could be looking at a reunion with Ezekiel Elliott. Do not rule it out. Zeke could be helping to groom a rookie running back. Jonathan Brooks in the 2nd round is what we all expect. But Ezekiel Elliott could be the mentor to a new running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Lots going on across the NFL. So many quarterback moves, so many receiver moves. And we've still got the draft to get to as we hear more and more about the 2024 NFL draft. We all agree, right? That first overall pick going to be Caleb Williams to the Chicago Bears. I know now that they can't trade Justin Fields, people are saying, oh, the Bears could stick with Justin Fields. It's not going to happen. They're drafting Caleb Williams. They're starting fresh. Maybe they do hold on to Justin Fields to be the backup. Maybe they wait till there's an injury and then trade Justin Fields then. But Caleb's going to the Chicago Bears. At 2, we're all expecting Jaden Daniels to go to the Washington Commanders. Marcus Mariota as the backup there seems like a fit for the Jaden Daniels game. Jaden Daniels seems like a Cliff Kingsbury offense kind of guy. We could be wrong, even though Vegas has Jaden Daniels with minus odds, Drake Maye still in the plus odds. So big difference between Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye in the public perception of where they're going to go and in the Vegas odds. I'm not talking about talent. I'm just talking about what we're hearing. So that, once again, we've talked about it, leaves the Patriots at 3. Do they take Drake Maye? Do the Vikings trade up for Drake Maye? Do the Vikings take J.J. McCarthy at 4? Or do the Cardinals take Marvin Harrison at 4? Do the Vikings take J.J. McCarthy at 5? Or what about the Chargers? If they stay put at 5, is it Malik Neighbors that they're going to be taking? Is it Joe Alt, the offensive tackle, that they're going to be selecting to build that run game that Jim Harbaugh wants so bad? And then there's the Giants at 6. Previously, it was all Roma Duns. Giants love Roma Duns. They're going to miss out on a quarterback, so they're going to take Roma Duns. But now that the Patriots are not set on a quarterback at 3, and the Vikings could be trading up to there, we're starting to hear rumblings that J.J. McCarthy could be the next quarterback of the New York Giants. There are so many rumors going on across the NFL. There is so much news. It's the offseason. It's free agency. It is a beautiful time. So make sure you subscribe to Player Profiler News. Make sure you tune into Player Profiler today, 7 days a week at 7 p.m., because you just can't miss with all this news happening.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.